The emergency doors slid open with a loud hiss. 2 alien guards rushed in, carrying a stretcher between them. On it lay a badly injured human male, barely covered by a thermal blanket. His chest was bleeding. His face was swollen. His arm hung limp off the side. Karila froze in shock. She had only seen humans in holovids and training books, never this close. Never like this. Put him in room 7, the chief medic said. He's fading fast. The guards did as ordered and disappeared, leaving the room silent except for the beeping monitor next to the human's bed. The male's chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. His skin was pale, almost bluish, and the thick blanket barely hid the bruises on his body. Karila stood by the door, her hands shaking slightly. Karila, the chief medic said, turning to her. Clean him up. His wounds were patched, but his body is filthy. Use the medical wipes. Don't take off the thermal sheet unless necessary. Yes, chief, she replied, bowing quickly. When the chief left, Karila stepped closer to the human. She had never seen such a strange body before, so broad, so muscular, so warm. Even through the blanket, she could feel the heat rising off him. She opened the cabinet and pulled out a pack of sanitized wipes. Her fingers trembled as she unwrapped the first one. Just a body, she whispered to herself. Just a patient. She started with his face. Gently wiping away the dried blood, she noticed how strong his jawline was under the dirt. A scar ran from his left cheek to his temple. His eyelashes were long and dark. He didn't look dangerous. He looked ... peaceful. Next. She moved to his arms. His left one was broken and in a splint, but the right one, despite bruises, was large and muscular. She wiped slowly, watching as the dirt revealed smooth, tan skin beneath. Karila tried not to stare. She had never touched a male body before, and now she was touching a human's body, one of the galaxy's most feared warriors. When she reached his chest, she hesitated. The blanket was tucked around his torso. She'd need to lift it just a little to clean the area. Her cheeks flushed a light purple, the sign of embarrassment in her species. It's just to clean the skin, she told herself. She slowly peeled the edge of the blanket back, revealing more of his bare chest. A deep scar crossed from one shoulder to his ribs. His body was full of injuries, scratches, cuts, and burn marks. Karila gently wiped them one by one. Suddenly, the blanket twitched. Her eyes widened. She stopped moving. Did she imagine it? She waited. Her heart was pounding now. Then it happened again. A small movement beneath the blanket. A shift. A slow rising and falling that didn't match his breathing. She dropped the wipe in shock. Was he waking up? Or was something wrong with his body? She reached for the monitor. It showed stable vitals. No signs of pain or waking. Her fingers moved back to the blanket. Curiosity battled fear in her heart. I need to check, she whispered. She lifted the blanket slightly, just a few inches. What she saw made her gasp, and quickly lower it again. His body had responded, naturally, not from pain. Not from illness, but from touch. Karila stepped back, her heart racing. Oh no. She didn't understand what it meant, but she knew it wasn't something she was trained for. Then suddenly, his hand moved. A low groan escaped his throat. She froze. The human's eyes remained closed, but his right hand slowly reached out and grabbed something, her wrist. Karila gasped loudly. His grip wasn't painful, but it was strong, firm, alive. She stared down at the hand holding her. Her first instinct was to pull away, but something stopped her. His lips moved. He mumbled something. She leaned closer to hear. Lena, don't go. His voice was hoarse, weak, but it was filled with sadness. Karila's expression softened. He wasn't trying to harm her. He was dreaming, calling for someone he missed. Slowly, His hand slipped from her wrist and fell back on the bed. Karila looked at him in silence for a long moment. This human wasn't like what the stories said. He didn't look like a killer. He looked broken, lost, hurt. She picked up the dropped wipe, her fingers still shaking slightly, and she continued to clean him, but deep in her chest, something strange stirred. And beneath the blanket did something else. Karila didn't sleep that night. Even after she returned to her quarters, her mind kept returning to the human, his strange warmth, the way he grabbed her wrist, the sorrow in his voice when he called out, Lena. Who was Lena? Why did that name hurt him so deeply? She had wiped down many patients before. Some were aliens from war zones, some half-broken machines, and even a few cyborgs. But this human was different. Something about his touch stayed on her skin. The next morning, Karila entered the clinic earlier than usual. The hallway lights were still dim. Most nurses hadn't even reported in yet. She walked quietly, her heart oddly nervous. Room 7. She stood outside the door. A second passed. Then she slowly pushed it open. The room was quiet, except for the steady beeping of the monitor. The human was still asleep, his chest rising and falling slowly under the thermal blanket. But something was different. His face wasn't as pale. The bruises had changed color, showing healing. And his right hand, the one that had grabbed her wrist, was now resting across his chest, as if waiting for something. Karila stepped closer, her voice low. Good morning. The human didn't respond. She checked the charts. Body temperature, stabilizing. Pulse, strong. Healing had already started. She hesitated, then reached out to gently fix the blanket on his shoulder. That's when it happened. His body twitched again beneath the blanket. And this time, it wasn't small. She froze in place. Her eyes slowly widened as the sheet shifted upward near his waist. Karila's throat went dry. This reaction, she had read about it in the forbidden parts of human biology. It wasn't illness. It was something else. She backed away, but before she could reach the door, his eyes opened, dark, sharp, alert. She gasped. The human blinked, then looked at her, confused, groggy. Then he seemed to realize where he was and what had happened. He quickly looked down at the blanket, then up at her. His face flushed, even through the bruises. I'm sorry, he whispered. His voice was cracked and dry. Karila didn't speak at first. She just stared. You were unconscious, she said softly. You grabbed me yesterday. You said a name. The human shut his eyes for a moment. Lena, who is she? He took a long breath. My partner. She didn't make it. Karila stepped closer. The war? He nodded slowly. Explosive. She pulled me out. Got caught in the second blast. A heavy silence followed. Karila suddenly felt ashamed for reacting so nervously. This man had seen too much. Lost someone he loved. And now he was waking up in an alien world, surrounded by strangers. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable, he said again, voice heavy with guilt. It's just, I wasn't in control. Karila looked down, then gave a small nod. Your body was just healing, reacting, I know. A long pause. Then for the first time the human smiled just barely. You're not like the others, he said. Karila tilted her head. Others? Other aliens I've met. You don't look at me with fear or hatred. She didn't answer. She just picked up a fresh wipe and began cleaning the side of his face again, where dried blood had stained the edge of his jaw. I'm just doing my duty, she said, but her hand lingered a bit longer than needed, and her heart beat a little faster than usual. Outside the room, 2 alien nurses walked past, whispering to each other. Why is she assigned to the human? I heard his body reacted to her touch. Disgusting. They're too primitive. Karila heard it. She paused, but didn't stop wiping his face. The human noticed her stillness. Everything okay? She gave a soft smile. Yes, but they don't like you here. I'm used to that, he said quietly. And then, unexpectedly, he added, but I'm glad you stayed. Her fingers stopped mid-motion. For the first time, Kirilla couldn't tell whose heart was racing faster, hers or his. Asterisk. The next time Kirilla entered the room, she didn't bring a wipe or a chart. She brought her heart. The human Eli was awake now, sitting up slightly in bed. His arm was still in a splint, ribs still sore, but his eyes were clear, strong, curious. Kirilla stood at the doorway for a moment, unsure why she felt nervous. She had seen hundreds of patients before, but none had ever thanked her. None had said, I'm glad you stayed. Eli looked up as she stepped inside. You again, he said with a small smile. You're healing fast, Kirilla replied. Your hands must be magic, he said lightly. Kirilla's face flushed a pale violet. My hands are just trained. Still magic, he whispered. She looked away, pretending to check the monitor, but her fingers were trembling. Eli noticed. You okay? He asked. Yes, just tired, she lied. The truth was, ever since she touched him, she hadn't slept. Well, every time she closed her eyes, she felt the memory of his skin under her fingers, the warmth of his hand on her wrist, the strange movement beneath the blanket. And now, he was awake, speaking, looking at her with eyes that didn't judge, didn't fear, just saw her. She cleared her throat. You should rest more. You're not fully healed. I've had worse, he said, leaning back against the bed. Then softer. Still hurts where Lena pulled me. Kirilla sat down slowly on the edge of the nearby stool. Who was she? My partner. My shield buddy. We served together for 4 years. Was she your mate? He smiled sadly. No, we were close, but not like that. She loved someone else. I couldn't save her. Kirilla looked down. I'm sorry, she said softly. Eli sighed. Sometimes I wonder, what's the point of surviving if you lose everything that made you fight in the first place? Kirilla looked up. Maybe the point is to find something new. Their eyes met for a long second. Neither of them spoke, until his hand moved. He reached out slowly and placed his fingers gently on hers. Kirilla's heart skipped. Her training told her to pull away. Her instincts told her to stay, and she stayed. His touch was warm, steady, kind. I didn't expect kindness here. Eli sighed. I thought I'd wake up strapped down or left alone to die. Kirilla's voice was barely a whisper. You were left alone. Until I came. He squeezed her fingers softly. Why? She blinked. What do you mean? Why didn't you walk away like the others? Kirilla thought for a long moment, then said, because when I looked at you, I didn't see an enemy. I saw pain. A silence filled the room again, but this time, it wasn't cold. It was warm. Safe. Real. Just then, the door opened. Another alien nurse stepped in. Her face turned cold when she saw Kirilla and Eli holding hands. You're not allowed to touch patients like that, she snapped. Kirilla quickly pulled her hand away, her face flushed. I was checking his pulse, she lied. The nurse narrowed her eyes. Be careful, Kirilla. Human males are unpredictable. They don't bond the way we do. She left with a hiss, leaving silence behind her. Eli looked at Kirilla. Is that true? Kirilla shook her head slowly. I don't know, but I don't care. Eli smiled. Kirilla stood up. I should go, but I'll come back. I want to hear more about Lena, he nodded. And I want to know more about you. As she turned to leave, Eli whispered just loud enough for her to hear. You said I stirred while I slept. But you've stirred something in me too. Kirilla paused at the door. She didn't look back, but her heart was no longer confused. It was waking up, just like him. Asterisk. Kirilla wasn't supposed to return that night. Nurses were rotated every 2 days. Orders were strict. And especially around humans. Very strict. But still, here she was standing silently outside room 7 in the dim hallway, her palm hovering over the door sensor. Her shift had ended, but something inside her refused to let go. She pressed her palm forward. His SSS. The door slid open. Inside, Eli was awake, lying under the blanket, staring up at the ceiling. He turned his head when he saw her. "I was hoping you'd come," he said softly. Karila stepped in, closing the door behind her. "I shouldn't be here, I know, but I'm glad you are." She pulled the chair closer and sat beside him. Her eyes scanned his body. His wounds looked better. His color had returned. His voice was stronger. But there was still something in his gaze, something hollow. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Alive," he replied, and confused. Karila tilted her head. "About what?" He hesitated, then looked her straight in the eyes. "About you." Karila's breath caught. Eli continued. "You're the only one who touches me without fear. You talk to me like I'm a person, not a problem." Karila looked down at her hands. "You're not a problem to me." Eli smiled gently. "Then maybe I'm not as broken as I thought." For a moment there was silence, a deep, soft silence that carried more emotion than words. Then he said, "Will you sit closer?" Karila didn't answer right away, but she moved her chair until her knees nearly touched his bed. His voice dropped lower. "Yesterday, when I reacted under the blanket, I felt ashamed. But now I wonder." Karila's heart was racing. "Wonder what?" "I wonder if it was my body, or my soul responding to something." Her skin flushed violet again. She whispered, I don't know if I'm allowed to feel what I feel." Eli reached out his hand. Slowly, she stared at it for a long moment, then gently placed her own in his. Their fingers locked, and suddenly, the silence became heavier, thicker. Her eyes drifted down to the blanket. She knew what was beneath it. What had stirred before? What might stir again? Not just his body, but his trust, his need, his loneliness. Karila's voice trembled. "I only came to check on your wounds." "I know," Eli replied. "But you're healing something else too." She looked up. "What?" "My heart." Karila's pulse thudded loud in her ears. Without thinking, she leaned forward and gently touched his forehead. Warm, human, alive. Then she slowly wiped the sweat near his temple with the cloth she had hidden in her sleeve. Eli closed his eyes. He let her care for him, without words, without shame. But as her hand moved down toward his collarbone, she noticed it again, a soft rise under the blanket, a twitch, a quiet tension. Karila's eyes widened. She froze. She had barely touched him, and yet his body responded again. Eli opened his eyes and looked at her, embarrassed. "I'm sorry." Karila didn't pull away. Her voice was soft, steady. "You don't need to be." Their eyes locked, but just then, the door alarm blinked red. Someone was outside. Karila jumped up, stepping back fast. Eli sat up slightly, his face alert. "Is it your superiors?" Karila whispered, "Yes, maybe doing room checks." She grabbed the cloth and stuffed it into her sleeve again. She turned to him and whispered fast, "Close your eyes. Pretend you're asleep." He obeyed instantly. The door slid open, and in walked the head medic, along with 2 senior nurses. They looked around the room. Karila stood at the back wall, her hands behind her back. One nurse narrowed her eyes. "Why are you in here, Karila? You're off shift." Karila took a slow breath. "I forgot my med sensor," she lied, tapping her pocket. "Just came to retrieve it." The head medic gave her a long, cold look, then nodded once. "Don't forget again, especially not around the human. They react in strange ways." Karila bowed slightly. "Understood." As they turned and left, Karila glanced back at Eli. His eyes were still closed, but a small smile tugged at the edge of his lips. He had heard everything, and he knew she came not because of duty, but because of curiosity. Forbidden. But real. Eli had a dream that night. But this time, it wasn't about war. It wasn't about fire, or broken bones, or Lena's hand slipping from his as she died. It was about a voice gentle and warm. It called his name softly. Not like a command, but like a comfort. He opened his eyes slowly, and there she was. Rila. Sitting in the dark beside his bed again, her eyes glowing softly under the low clinic light. You came back, he whispered. I shouldn't have, she replied, her voice barely louder than a breath. But you did. Rila looked down. I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing your voice in my head. I wasn't talking, Eli said, confused. Rila shook her head. Not with words, with the way you look at me. With the way your hand held mine. A lily. Tried to sit up, but pain shot through his ribs. Rila stood quickly and placed a hand on his shoulder. Don't push yourself. He winced, then gave a soft chuckle. Guess I'm still broken. Rila didn't laugh. Instead, she looked into his eyes. You're not broken, she said. You're just wounded in too many ways. Eli's smile faded, and for the first time since he woke up in this alien place, he spoke the truth. All my life I was trained to fight, to win, to survive. But no one trained me for what to do when someone touches me like you do. Rila tilted her head. I didn't mean to make you feel. No, Eli interrupted gently. You didn't make me feel anything. You just uncovered something I buried. He looked down at the blanket covering him. His voice was lower now. You saw what happened. My body reacted to you. I hate that it happened. I feel ashamed. Rila stepped closer. You don't need to feel shame. You don't understand. Eli whispered. On Earth, when something like that happens between a nurse and a soldier, it's not allowed. It's seen as weakness, as crossing a line. Rila slowly sat beside him again. Then maybe your people don't understand healing. Eli turned to look at her. What do you mean? Rila took a deep breath. In my culture, sometimes, the body speaks louder than the mind. It shows where the soul is trying to go. She reached out again, this time placing her fingers on his bare arm, just above a fading bruise. You didn't react because of lust, she said softly. You reacted because you were finally safe. Eli stared at her, unsure what to say. I don't want to cause you trouble, he whispered. You already have, Rila replied with a small, playful smile. But maybe trouble is what I need. They both laughed quietly. But then Rila's smile faded. She leaned forward slightly, her voice serious. There's talk. The medics are watching me. If they find out I'm spending time with you after hours, they'll fire you? Eli asked. She shook her head. Worse, they'll mark me as emotionally compromised. I'll be transferred to the outer colonies, away from patients. Away from you. A sharp silence filled the room. Eli looked away. Then maybe I should ask them to assign someone else. Rila's breath caught. Don't say that. I don't want to ruin your life. She placed a finger on his lips. You saved my spirit, she whispered. Let me save yours. He stared into her eyes wide, shimmering, full of something he hadn't seen in a long time. Belief. In him. In what they were becoming. But just as their fingers touched again, another sharp buzz lit up on the panel by the door. Security alert. Unauthorized presence in room 7. Rila's eyes widened. They know I'm here. Eli reached for her hand. Go, now. But Rila didn't move. Asterisk. Not yet. I won't leave you like Lena left you, she whispered. She didn't choose to leave. I am choosing. I'll hide, but I won't disappear. She slipped behind the medical screen just as 2 guards entered the room. One of them looked at Eli suspicious. You triggered the alert. I turned over in my sleep, Eli said, voice calm. The guard narrowed his eyes but said nothing. After a quick scan, they left. Eli exhaled deeply. Karila stepped out slowly, her eyes searching his. I meant what I said, she told him. I know, he replied. And for the first time, I want to live. She took his hand again, and this time, neither of them let go. The next rotation changed everything. Rila was no longer assigned to Eli. He was officially stable. Other nurses took over, but none of them looked him in the eye. None of them stayed long. None of them spoke with warmth, and none of them were Karila. She tried to keep away. She really did, but the silence of her quarters was loud. The emptiness inside her chest grew every day she didn't see him, until one night, she stopped trying. She entered after midnight. No ID badge, no gloves, no excuse. Eli was already sitting on the edge of the bed, as if he had been waiting. You broke protocol, he said with a grin. She nodded. I think I'm done with protocol. They both laughed, softly, nervously. Then Karila stepped forward and knelt in front of him. She placed her hands gently on his knees. I want to understand, she said. Understand what? Why your body responds like it does. What it means when a human stirs. Like that. Eli's breath caught. It means we're alive. It means we feel. Want, crave touch not just for pleasure, but to feel seen. She looked up at him, eyes glowing softly in the low light. I see you. Those 3 words cracked something inside him. Eli leaned forward and rested his forehead against hers. You make me feel more human than I've felt in years. Karila whispered, and you make me feel more alive than I've ever been. Her hands moved up, brushing his sides. Not just to clean, not to heal, but to explore. To connect. His breath hitched again. But this time, he didn't apologize. And she didn't stop. 2 species. 2 hearts, 1 quiet room. And a bond that no rule could explain. But outside the door unseen, a camera lens blinked red. Someone was watching. Asterisk. The alarm was silent, but the blinking red light above the door told Karila everything they knew. She sat frozen beside Eli, their foreheads still touching, their hands still linked. Outside, footsteps approached, heavy boots. Multiple guards. Eli noticed the change in her eyes. What's wrong? She whispered. They saw us. Someone was watching. Eli stood, ignoring the pain in his ribs. I'll protect you. No, Karila said quickly. You're still healing. The door slammed open. 2 armored officers entered, followed by the head medic, his face cold like stone. Karila stepped forward. I came on my own, she said. He didn't force anything. This is my doing. Eli tried to speak, but she gently touched his arm, shaking her head. The head medic stared at her. You touched a human patient beyond authorized limits. You violated care protocol. You brought shame. Karila stood taller. I brought healing. And if you can't see that, maybe you're the one who's blind. Gasps echoed from behind the guards. But Karila didn't back down. Eli took her hand and spoke clearly. If caring for someone makes her guilty, then I'm guilty too. Charge me, not her. The medic's eyes narrowed. You both think this is a game, but you forget this is a military clinic, not a love story. Just then, a voice echoed from the hall, a high-ranking alien ambassador, long-robed and stern-faced. Enough. Everyone turned. The ambassador stepped forward. I reviewed the footage myself. Karila's breath stopped. Eli's fists tightened. The ambassador looked directly at Karila. What I saw was not lust, not danger, but connection. He turned to the others. How many humans have we seen arrive here, broken and angry, and leave the same way? But this one was healed, not just by medicine, but by compassion. No one spoke. The ambassador continued. Perhaps it's time we learn from the humans. Perhaps it's time we allow our hearts to speak again. He looked at Kayrilla and, Eli, you are free to go. Kayrilla's knees nearly gave out. Eli wrapped an arm around her waist. But go together, the ambassador added. You've already proven you're stronger that way. Later that evening, Kayrilla helped Eli pack his things. He was being released to neutral grounds officially recovered. She folded his shirt awkwardly. Your clothes are so square. He laughed. Yours look like floating curtains. They both laughed, their shoulders bumping. Kayrilla turned serious. Where will you go now? Eli looked at her gently. That depends. Where will you go? She looked at his outstretched hand, then back at his eyes. I used to live by rules, she said. Now, I want to live by feeling. She placed her hand in his. As they walked out of the clinic together, him limping slightly, her standing tall beside him, every head turned. But they didn't care, because something had stirred that day. Not just under a blanket, but in a heart that had forgotten how to feel. And in another that never knew it. Could two souls, one story, and a future no rule could deny.